You feel it, don't you? That unshakable sense that you're different, that you've been chosen for something bigger than yourself, something most people can't even comprehend. It's like a quiet whisper in the back of your mind, a knowing that you're meant to carry a spiritual purpose, to rise above the chaos of the world and bring something higher into existence. But with that sense of purpose, that feeling of being set apart, comes a weight and invisible burden that nobody warns you about. And here's the hard truth sometimes. The very things you're doing to try to rise into your spiritual destiny might actually be pulling you farther away from it. Why is that? Why do spiritual efforts sometimes feel like climbing a mountain that never ends, where every step forward seems to make the summit feel even farther away? It's easy to think, maybe I'm just not trying hard enough. Maybe I need to meditate longer, chant louder, purify myself more, or read another sacred text. But what if the problem isn't how much you're doing? What if the problem is the very way you're approaching your efforts? You see, being a chosen one isn't about doing more. It's not about trying to force yourself into a mold of perfection. And yet, that's where so many of us get stuck, in this endless cycle of striving, of trying to earn something that has already been given to us. So, let's explore this together. Let's unravel why your spiritual efforts may be hurting you and what it really means to walk the path of the chosen. We have to start with a question that cuts straight to the core. What are you trying to achieve through your spiritual efforts? Seriously, pause and reflect on that for a moment. Are you trying to become more enlightened? Are you trying to escape from your pain? Are you trying to prove that you're worthy of this sacred calling you feel deep inside? And if so, to whom are you trying to prove it? Here's the paradox: the very moment you try to achieve something spiritually, you create resistance. Why? Because the moment you say, I need to become enlightened, you're also implying that you're not enlightened now. The moment you say, I need to purify myself, you're unconsciously reinforcing the belief that you're impure. And the moment you say, I need to fulfill my purpose as one of the chosen, you're subtly telling yourself that you're unworthy until you do.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
This is the trap of spiritual striving. It's seductive because it feels like progress. You're meditating, you're fasting, you're journaling your spiritual insights, you're reading every book you can find about awakening and purpose. But underneath all of that effort, there's this subtle vibration of lack. I need to do all of this because I'm not enough as I am. Let me tell you a story. There was once a spiritual seeker who climbed a mountain to find the wisest guru in his land. After years of searching, he finally reached the guru's cave and asked, Master, what must I do to become enlightened? The guru smiled and replied, Why do you want to be enlightened? The seeker, confused, said, Because I don't want to suffer anymore. I want to escape this endless cycle of pain. The guru's smile faded, and he said, Then you'll never be enlightened, because you're chasing it out of fear. Enlightenment isn't something you achieve. It's the natural state that arises when you stop running from yourself. Now, think about that for a second. How much of your spiritual effort is fueled by fear? Fear that you're not good enough, fear that you're wasting your life, fear that you're failing your destiny. What if the very act of trying to escape your suffering is what's keeping you trapped in it? Here's where it gets even deeper. As a chosen one, you likely feel a strong sense of responsibility. You feel like you've been put here to help others, to raise the vibration of the planet, to bring light into the darkness. And that's beautiful. But it's also dangerous. Why? Because that sense of responsibility can easily turn into a prison. You start to believe that you have to earn your right to be a chosen one. You tell yourself, I can't rest until I've healed the world. I can't be happy until I've fulfilled my purpose. But here's the truth: you're not chosen because of what you do. You're chosen because of who you are. Your worthiness isn't something you need to prove. It's something you need to remember. And the irony is, the more you try to prove it, the more you forget it. So let me ask you something. What would happen if you stopped trying so hard? What would happen if, just for a moment, you let go of all the spiritual practices, all the rituals, all the striving, and just sat with yourself as you are, flaws, doubts, fears, and all? Could you still believe that you're enough? Could you still trust that you're chosen? Here's the thing about the path of the chosen: it's not about adding more to yourself. It's about stripping away everything that isn't you. It's about letting go of the masks, the expectations, the need to prove anything to anyone, including yourself. And that's terrifying, because it means facing all the parts of yourself that you've been trying to fix or avoid. But that's where the real magic happens. When you stop trying to fix yourself, you realize you were never broken. When you stop trying to prove your worth, you remember that you've always been worthy. And when you stop trying to escape your pain, you discover that your pain is just a doorway into a deeper truth. So, here's my challenge to you for the next 24 hours. Stop all your spiritual efforts. Don't meditate, don't journal, don't chant, don't read any spiritual books. Instead, just be with yourself. Notice the thoughts, the emotions, the sensations that arise. And when you feel the urge to do something, ask yourself, who am I trying to become? And why do I believe I'm not already that person? We've only scratched the surface, but I want to leave you with one final thought before we continue. The greatest spiritual truth is also the simplest: you are already what you're seeking. The enlightenment, the purpose, the peace, it's already within you. The only thing keeping you from it is the belief that it's somewhere else. So, what would your life look like if you stopped searching? What would it feel like to simply rest in the knowing that you are enough, exactly as you are? Most of us are exhausted, and it's not because life is inherently difficult. It's because we're fighting. Fighting to fix ourselves, fighting to control things, fighting to be someone we think we need to be. And the hardest truth to accept is this: the fight is optional. It's not something life demands from you. It's something you've been taught to do, maybe even something you've taught yourself. But it doesn't have to be this way. Let's get to the core of it. Why do we fight so hard? Why do we push, strive, and struggle, even when it feels like we're running in circles? Underneath everything, it's because we can't fully trust life. We don't trust that things will work out unless we're forcing them to. We don't trust that we're enough unless we're constantly proving it. We don't trust that the universe knows what it's doing unless we're trying to control it. And that lack of trust, it keeps us in a constant state of resistance. Every time something doesn't go the way we planned, we resist it. Every time we feel an emotion we don't like, we resist it. Every time life doesn't match the picture we have in our head, we resist it. And that resistance is what creates so much of our pain, not the situation itself, but our refusal to accept it as it is. There's a story about a man who gets caught in a river during a storm. The current is strong, and he's desperately trying to swim against it to get back to the shore. But no matter how hard he fights, the current keeps pulling him farther away. Eventually, he's so exhausted that he can't fight anymore. And in that moment, when he finally lets go and stops struggling, something incredible happens. The current carries him to a calm part of the river where he can stand and walk to safety. This is what letting go looks like. It's not about giving up, it's about realizing that the fight isn't helping you. It's about recognizing when your efforts are actually making things harder for you, not easier. And it's about trusting that the current of life knows where it's taking you, even if you don't. But here's where it gets tricky. Letting go isn't something you can force. It's not another task to add to your checklist, another technique to master. It's something that happens naturally when you realize that holding on is no longer serving you. It's like carrying a heavy bag. You don't have to convince yourself to put it down once you realize it's weighing you down. You just do it, because it's the only thing that makes sense. Here's the part that might surprise you. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you sit back and let life happen to you without taking any action. It means you stop trying to control things that were never yours to control in the first place. It means you do what you can, but you don't attach your entire sense of self-worth to the outcome. And it means you trust that even when things don't go the way you wanted, they're still unfolding the way they're meant to. This is where most of us get stuck. We think that if we let go, if we stop pushing so hard, everything will fall apart. But the truth is, it's the pushing that's creating the chaos. It's the constant need to control that's making us feel out of control. Letting go isn't about losing control. It's about realizing you never had it to begin with. And that's not a bad thing, it's liberating. Because when you stop trying to control everything, you free yourself to actually experience life as it is, not as you think it should be. Let's talk about emotions for a minute, because this is where letting go really gets tested. Most of us are terrified of our own feelings. When sadness shows up, we try to push it away. When anger comes, we suppress it. When fear arises, we distract ourselves. But emotions aren't the problem, it's our resistance to them that causes the real pain. Think about it. Sadness isn't unbearable on its own. What makes it unbearable is the story we attach to it. I shouldn't feel this way. Something's wrong with me. I need to fix this. The same goes for anger, fear, guilt, or any other emotion we label as bad. It's not the feeling itself that hurts, it's our refusal to let ourselves feel it. But emotions are like waves. They rise, they peak, and they fall. They're temporary, no matter how intense they feel in the moment. And when you stop resisting them, when you let them move through you without trying to control them, they lose their power over you. They don't disappear, but they no longer define you. They become just another part of the human experience, no better or worse than any other. So the next time a difficult emotion shows up, try something different. Instead of fighting it, let it be there. Instead of trying to push it away or make it go away, just notice it. Notice where you feel it in your body. Notice how it shifts and changes over time. And notice that no matter how strong it feels, it doesn't last forever. Letting go isn't just about emotions, though. It's about every aspect of your life. It's about letting go of the need to always be right, the need to always have a plan, the need to always be in control. It's about letting go of the belief that you have to earn your worth, that you have to prove your value, that you have to be perfect to be loved. And it's about letting go of the idea that life is something you need to win at, instead of something you're here to experience. This doesn't mean you stop trying. It doesn't mean you stop working towards your goals or caring about the things that matter to you. It means you stop attaching your entire identity to those things. You stop believing that your happiness depends on them. And you stop letting the fear of failure keep you from living fully. Here's the irony: the moment you let go of trying to control everything, life becomes easier. The moment you stop resisting your emotions, they lose their grip on you. The moment you stop fighting to prove your worth, you realize you were worthy all along. It's not about giving up, it's about giving yourself permission to stop struggling. So what does this look like in practice? It doesn't mean you suddenly become passive or indifferent. It means you show up fully for your life, but without the need to force it. It means you take action, but without the expectation of a specific outcome. It means you trust yourself enough to know that no matter what happens, you'll be okay. And here's the surprising part: when you stop trying so hard, when you let go of the fight, the things you've been chasing often come to you naturally. Not because you've earned them, but because you've created the space for them to show up. It's like unclenching your fists you didn't even realize you were holding on so tightly until you finally let go. Life is unpredictable. It will never be exactly what you want it to be, and it will never go exactly according to plan. But that's not a problem. That's the beauty of it. The more you let go of your need to control it, the more you can actually enjoy it. And in the end, isn't that what we're all really here for? Not to fight, not to strive, not to prove anything, but to live. When you let go, something remarkable happens. You begin to notice what's always been there. The moments you were too busy to see. The peace you were too distracted to feel. The beauty that didn't need to be chased because it was right in front of you the entire time. Letting go isn't about retreating or giving up. It's about opening your eyes to the life that's already unfolding in its rawness and imperfection. Here's the strange thing: the harder we try to control life, the more chaotic it feels. And when we stop gripping so tightly, we realize that life has its own rhythm, its own intelligence. Have you ever noticed how the most beautiful moments happen when you're not trying to force them? A conversation that flows effortlessly, a sunset that catches you off guard, a spark of laughter that comes out of nowhere. These things don't happen because you planned them. They happen because you allowed them. But allowing life doesn't mean it'll always feel good. Sometimes it's messy. Sometimes it's painful. Letting go doesn't take away the discomfort. It simply means you stop making the discomfort worse by resisting it. You stop turning pain into suffering by trying to control what can't be controlled. And in that acceptance, there's freedom. Not the kind of freedom that comes from everything being perfect, but the kind that comes from knowing you don't have to fight anymore. What would it feel like to let life be what it is, instead of what you think it should be? To let yourself feel exactly what you're feeling, without labeling it as right or wrong. To let go of the need to fix yourself, and instead realize that nothing about you was ever broken. The truth is, you don't have to do anything to be worthy. You don't have to achieve anything to matter. You don't have to fight to prove your place in this world. The light you're searching for isn't waiting for you out there. It's already inside you, quiet and steady, just waiting for you to notice. So stop, just stop, and see what happens when you finally let go.